Here's why you sound boring as fuck when improvising. You probably were taught that knowing a scale shape or two was enough, or that you just had to feel the music. Here's the truth: improvising is difficult and it requires hard work. But with these 4 tips, you'll be able to take your bland and boring solos to a whole new level. When I said that improvising was difficult just now, you probably thought, yeah, there are a bunch of scales and arpeggios to learn. And while that's not wrong, today I want to focus on some other stuff. Stuff that often gets overlooked when we're thinking about notes and scales and that theory shit. Of course, if you know the proper scales and notes, it will be better. But if that's all you're thinking about when improvising, you probably sound like this. But if you listen to me, you sound more like this. All right, let's get to it. Tip number 1, rhythm. What's more important, the notes you choose or the rhythm? Would you rather have good notes with bad rhythm or bad notes with good rhythm? I can assure you that the second option is better. Rhythm is a crucial part of your melodical ideas. And if you're looking at the fretboard just thinking which notes to play, then you're not thinking musically. An easy way to get better at rhythm is just to make sure that you stop being lazy and practice with the metronome every day. But here's a little practice drill you can do. Choose just 4 notes. The reason for that is you don't want to have to worry about the notes you're playing since you'll be focusing on rhythm. Now put on a backing track and the idea is to explore the same notes with different rhythms. Try the simple exercise and you'll see how you start thinking differently about your musical lines. You'll end up realizing that you don't even need a whole lot of notes to have a good solo. Tip number 2, articulations. Pay attention to how I'm playing this phrase. Now here's the same phrase, but played in a different way. Alright, so what changed? After all, these are the same notes played with the same rhythm, right? Well, if you're not too busy complaining about having to practice with the metronome, you probably realized that in the second time I played the phrase, it was filled with different articulations. I basically attacked the notes in all sorts of different ways rather than just picking normally. I used multiple techniques like slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, vibrato, bending, and even the whammy bar right here. This brings life to the solo. It makes it sound like an actual person with intention playing this. And I didn't change one bit of the notes I played, because it's not about what you play. Here, it's about how you play. If you like these improvisation tips, consider enrolling for 52-week guitar player. You will receive structure, practice routines, feedback, but more on that later. Tip number 3, one string approach. The main foundation for most guitar players when it comes to improvisation is the scale shape. It can be pentatonic, the major scale, and you can even know more than just one shape. But the shape is still the main reference. And even if you know all of the shapes of the scales that you're using, you'll never transition well and play effortlessly around the fretboard. Not until you find a way to break out of that box. The most effective way to do this is to ditch these shapes altogether. You now improvise using only one string. So those shapes there will barely help you, if at all. This approach is helpful for 2 main reasons. First, you'll visualize things from a totally different perspective. Second, you'll play a lot less, because it's way more difficult to mindlessly play random notes back and forth when you only have one string you can use. All of this will help you to just be way more melodical and intentional about your playing. Here's an example of an improv just playing shapes. Now here's how it sounds when I'm using just one string. Sounds much better, right? Now, to do this, you need to know a few things, such as the notes you have in a scale. If you're thinking that you don't know the notes but only the shapes, well, think again. What you need to do is to see what notes are in the shapes. And you don't have to figure out every note in every single shape. Just one octave is enough. Take this example. Let's say you know that E minor pentatonic shape that everyone learns just by stumbling across their local guitar shop. Let's say you want to use the high E string to practice improv because you're cool and just listen to what I have to say. Simply figure out what notes we have in the A minor pentatonic, like this. E, G, A, B, D. After that, it's E again, so we know everything will just be the same from now on. Seriously, figure out your notes, even if you have to count the frets at first. I can't stress this enough. So we know that from the available notes, the first one to appear is the E, because that's the open high E itself. After that, we have G, A, B, D, E again, G, A, B, D. With these notes, you can start practicing. Practice, experiment, and see what works and what doesn't. Once you're feeling comfortable with the high E string, move up to the B string and keep going. It's important to say that this strict approach is merely for practicing purposes. The idea is to unlock a whole new way of visualizing the fretboard and finding melodies. And eventually, you can mix that in with the shapes that you already know. Move freely and transition between these contrasting approaches. Tip number 4, motifs. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone. It's your turn to speak, and you'll share your thoughts on the subject. You want to be consistent and make sure your ideas have meaning. Now, depending on the topic of the conversation, there will be some recurring words because they are relevant, but it won't get repetitive if those words are properly adapted to the context. If the topic is pizza, some words you'll probably say a few times are dough, sauce, cheese, etc. If the topic is guitar gear, maybe you'll be saying words like pedal, amp, modeler, or I should be spending less time buying gear and more time practicing guitar. What we'll do in our improv right now is similar, but as you can imagine, the meaning of the words we'll be using is more abstract because here we're choosing things based on aesthetic choices or like what sounds cool rather than like an actual meaning and relevance to that topic. The topic being like the backing track or the song. So a motif is a short musical idea that we'll repeat and explore in many different ways. It can be just rhythmic, just melodic, or both. Here's the motif we'll use right now. It's a very simple idea, and if you keep playing it as is, it will get repetitive fast. So what do we do now? We'll actually explore different ways to play this motif, and here's what I mean. This is the original motif. Now with rhythmic expansion. Rhythmic reduction. Melodic expansion. Melodic reduction. Inversion. Using different notes. Adding a prefix. Adding a suffix. Now let's see how it sounds in the solo. There you go, a solo with lots of different variations over the same idea. This creates diversity, but without losing that one thing that holds everything together and keeps it consistent. I should mention that using a motif like this is not a prerequisite for a good solo. A solo can be good or bad with or without using motifs. This is just one resource you can use, and it helps a lot to sound more intentional and consistent with your ideas. In the end, you just gotta practice and figure out what works best for you. If you like these improvisation tips, consider enrolling for 52-week guitar player. You will receive structure, practice routines, feedback, accountability, and live interactions with the instructors, myself included. Like every other guitar course out there, 52-week guitar player is personalized. We still have an organized lesson curriculum to solve your problem of having no structure. But as you go through it and do the practice routines, you will receive personalized feedback in video form from a pro. This is guaranteed in 52-week guitar player. We have a 90-day refund policy, so go ahead and join now. Technically, you enroll to avoid missing out, and you can always refund if you don't like it. But I'm confident you'll love it once you get rolling. Just check out what these students had to say. If by the time you're seeing this video we're closed, this is fine. I'll still put the link to the waiting list in the description. You have nothing to lose by signing up to the waiting list. Even if you don't end up enrolling in the program, at least this way you have the option, whereas if you don't sign up to the waiting list, you may not even get the chance. Consider signing up to the 52-week guitar player waiting list. We'll only be accepting 100 new students when we reopen. See you, guitar chefs!